If you're in the market for a new car, the chances are you know exactly what you want. Whether it's an SUV, a hatchback, a coupe, or an estate car, you know which side your bread is buttered. However, Citroën looks to mix things up somewhat with this, the C5X. With the C5 Aircross already filling the SUV gap in their range, this is something that's similarly sized and similarly priced, but that combines elements of the SUV, the hatchback, and even a bit of coupe. And with cars like the Ford Mondeo and Vauxhall Insignia on the decline, that could be a very wise move indeed. While that sounds like a recipe for a hot mess, the result is something that's both distinctive and also practical. When you consider that buying an SUV to stand out these days is pretty pointless, Citroën really could be onto something, especially when you consider the efficient engines and keen pricing. Seeing as the looks of the C5X are such a big selling point, let's start by looking at 5 design details that I love. Starting at the front, I love the way the Citroën double chevrons go into the chrome trim on the front of the car. These X-shaped daytime running lights are certainly distinctive and let you know there's a Citroën behind you. All trims of the C5X get big 19-inch wheels as standard, with these black wheel arch surrounds to give that SUV flavour. The bottom of the rear bumper has this neat little chevron pattern. These twin rear spoilers give a sporty flavour. These glass C-pillars give the impression that the roof is floating and are a nice touch. So this is a top spec Shine Plus version of the C5X, and from what I can see here, it's actually very plush. So you've got a nice bit of textured soft touch plastic here, soft stuff on the top of the dash, a few metal effect inserts, piano black, then you've got this nice bit of stitching here on the centre console and a bit more on the doors here as well. There are some harder plastics lower down, as you might expect from a car starting around £26,000, but steering wheel feels pretty nice in your hands, and these buttons in a pleasant satin effect plastic that shouldn't attract too many fingerprints. They're certainly a lot easier to use than some of the touch sensitive controls you'll see in other cars of this price. You've also got some gear shift paddles there, and yeah, feels very nice in your hands. In terms of storage, well, we've got this handy lidded cubby here, which has plenty of room for a smartphone to go on wireless charge. We've also got a couple of decent cup holders down there, so there's enough room for your big metal bottle of water and also a coffee cup. Plus this little lidded cubby here. It's not the deepest thing in the world, but you'll get a bottle of water in there without too much difficulty, and you've got a nice little pocket here for your change. Door pockets, well, they are reasonably thick, and this metal bottle will slide in there nicely, and there's enough room in there for some mints or chocolate or whatever you're likely to have in your pockets at the time. As is so common the case these days, you won't find any analog instruments in front of you. There's a digital display in front of you showing your speed, revs, economy and any other information you so wish. And there's another larger touchscreen infotainment system here to do everything else. This is a big improvement on Citroën systems we've seen previously, with much sharper graphics and, crucially, much snappier responses. It responds pretty quickly and looks pretty modern as well, which is nice. However, thankfully, not everything is on a touchscreen. So we have good old-fashioned physical controls here for your heating, and a volume control here, which is handily right next to your passenger, because let's face it, if you're driving, you're probably going to use the steering wheel mounted buttons to change the volume. The C5X is a big car, so unsurprisingly, even with this panoramic roof, I've got plenty of headroom, and with this electric seat adjustment, I've got lots of movement to get as high or as low as I want to. So if I fancy that commanding driving position, then I can have it, or I can lower it right down if I'm on the taller side. While we're looking forwards, we've got a big head-up display which is projected directly onto the windscreen, unlike older Citroëns where there was a little Perspex panel that came up that just displayed the bits and pieces in front of you. Now, this again is configurable, so at the moment it's showing me my speed, which unsurprisingly is 0, the roadside information, there isn't any, and also the sat-nav instructions, of which there are none. Now, if the head-up display is too high or too low for your driving position, in many cars it's a case of faffing about with the touchscreen infotainment system to get it where you want it to. Not so in the C5X, because the mirror control stalk also moves the head-up display up and down, as well as your mirror controls as normal. Very handy. The C5X is a long car, and so unsurprisingly I have a lot of legroom back here. However, I'm not particularly tall, so let's get a 6'1" adult back here and you can see exactly how much room you get. As you might have guessed, while legroom is fine, it is headroom that is the limiting factor here. I'm not helped by the fact that I do feel like I'm sat slightly higher than I was in the front back here. Great for having a good view out, not so great for rear headroom. However, it's not all bad news, because as you can see, we have a nice low tunnel down here, which, although it is a little bit wide, is certainly not too hard to get your foot over and back again, so shouldn't be too bad for a centre passenger. The chair is slightly raised here. If you don't need to use that centre seat, well, you can fold down this lovely armrest, which has space for a few pens and other bits and pieces, and a nice big metal drinks cooler. You'll also find a useful cubby down here with a rubber mat to stop your change or other bits and pieces sliding about, a couple of USB sockets, and some vents to stop you getting too hot. There's also a useful mat pocket here, and the door pockets are big enough for that metal bottle once more. So your space covered off, what about quality? Well, you get a nice bit of squishy plastic on the top here, and this chevron pattern of stitching, along with a nice big expanse of leather, or at least leather effect material. Again, you get a nice squidgy armrest there to lean upon, and although there's a bit of scratchy plastic down here, it certainly looks nice and hard wearing, which is just what you want for family life. As complex as the C5X seems, the choice of engine and trim is pretty simple. Once you've picked from entry-level Sense Plus, mid-range Shine and top-spec Shine Plus, there are only 3 engines to choose, each with a number that alludes to its power output. The entry point is the familiar 1.2 litre 3-cylinder PureTech 130, which is surprisingly effective in the C5 Aircross. The 1.6 litre PureTech 180 is for those that want a bit more poke. With no diesel on offer, you'll need the plug-in hybrid 225 for the best economy and emissions, with the added bonus of it being the most powerful version of the C5X. We suspect you'll be more interested in the electric-only range of 31 miles that'll give low CO2 emissions, just what you need for cheap company car tax bills. Plug-in hybrid models such as this do have a slightly smaller boot than those without the hybrid system, but it's still a big area. As you can see, my little backpack gets pretty much lost in there, and you do have these handy sliders on the floor to load longer items in. There's a 60-40 split there, and also a ski flap for longer items to push through. Although style is an entirely subjective thing, there's no doubt you won't lose the C5X in a car park. We suspect many of you will appreciate the subtly raised driving position, and there's decent practicality as well. A plug-in hybrid broadens the appeal, so if the driving experience is up to scratch, it could appeal to a great many of you, especially given the keen pricing. Now, we're not going to drive the C5X for a couple of months now, so do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of our next video. To find out even more about this and plenty of other new cars, then do head to parkers.co.uk as well.